Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Check on YouTube 1 2 3. Check on YouTube 1 2 3. Check on YouTube 1 2 3. It is Saturday. Hey everybody, my name's Aaron, and I am doing some streaming here. Just checking to see whether or not YouTube seems to be behind. YouTube behind. It's weird. See if YouTube updates or not. Maybe I'll just do a refresh real quick here. Streaming's hard, folks. There it is. Okay. The YouTube's considerably behind compared to Twitch, but that's interesting. Hey, my name's Aaron. I'm a software developer at Ditto, and today I'm working on some stuff for Ditto. I've been working yesterday's first stream that I showed off Edge Studio, a product I've been working on. And today I'm going to continue my battle with it. And I wouldn't say battle, continue working on it. Let's go through and take a look and see what we have. If you're watching afterwards on YouTube, thanks, man, for watching afterwards. Seems I got decent numbers on YouTube. I don't know why people watch my videos afterward, but hey, good for you, man. Let's see here. So we're gonna go in and take a look here. So what did I do today? So today I've already been working on this quite a bit. I've went through and I have the got the favorites and the history all coded up, and they work. So for example, if I want, I can take a history, I can run it. We could do this yesterday. Let's go ahead and run this. Take a look and see what's going on here. We can see that. But if I want, I can favorite one of these. So let's do a different one though. Let's grab comments. Take a look at some comments here in the database. So that's all local here. 41,000 comments. Well, you can see that's in the history. So now I can right click and say favorite that, and it's in my favorites. And if I want, I could delete one of these, and it should update the UI instantaneously. Some of the power of Ditto is the fact that we can do that. Ditto's I'm using observables and Ditto, and that allows me to kind of update the UI in real time without writing any real extra code. I just schedule myself for a callback that says, hey, anytime this data changes, let me know about it. And it'll go through and let you know about it. So that's pretty badass cool in my opinion. So we've got collections, history, and favorites. Kind of, I'm pretty happy with it. And you can now delete all the history if you want. And so now all that's gone. And if I wanted to do a new query like embedded movies, that should show up as my first query. Got a little beach ball when you run really complicated queries still, which I'm not happy about. I've got to think about how I'm going to fix that. But you can see here now that's in the history. And you can see this is because this data is really big. You can see here that each one of the records is really crazy bonkers big. And that's the reason why it kind of kills even like the scroll here. As you can see here, just trying to scroll a single record, and it's not great. So, but I mean, that's the reality of it. I need to paginate this results. It's probably something I need to take a look at. And let's see here. So favorites are, I'm going to say that the favorite feature I feel like is just about done. I can go through and delete a favorite. Like I'll delete this one right here. That's working. I can add favorites. Let me query something different here. Let me go back to comments and query that again. Is that what I currently have as a favorite? I do. So let's go and query movies. Limit 100. That should get us a new one there. We can favorite that so we can see here. So even if you don't want it in your history, you can still have it in your favorites, right? So that's cool. The favorites are automatically ordered by the date, the create date, and the same thing with history. So one of the things I want to fix in history is that if I run this query again, it'll list in here multiple times, right? And that's kind of annoying to tell you the truth, because I'll have 3 of these. history can get itself kind of borked. Bork is bork a word? Not sure. But basically, history can get itself to the point where there's just too much of it, and I shouldn't have to prune this myself. That seems like it's terrible. So what I think I want to work on is I want to button up query so I can say query's done because I need to go over to data store and write a bunch of code over there tomorrow. But I would like to try to get where I think query is close to MVP, a minimal viable product that you could go in and use it, and it seems like it's okay. So one of the things I'd like to clean up is the idea that if you run history and we already know that you have that same query text in history, let's not insert a new record. Let's go through and just update the created the date. And what would happen then is I just move it to the top. So if I had this query like here, embedded movies, if I were to run that again, my desired result is this. If I were to run this query again, it would not be listed. It wouldn't be listed down here and up here. There'd only be one listing of it. It'd move itself up to the top. And that to me, I think is a good experience. Now, of course, it's not your true history because the fact that you ran it down here is lost. But really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't care the fact that I ran over there. I just want to know in the order of like recent events, what have I been running? And so these dupes don't really help me at all, in my opinion. So I'm mostly writing this for myself, right? So let's just face that. I think then, if that's the case, then let's go through and make it so that I don't have to do this pruning. I don't think that this is all that hard to do from a coding standpoint. So let's just try to figure that out. So let's go back to our code here. So what we're going to have to investigate is where we save the queries. And so I'm going to close some of these. I have a lot of code open right now. Data store I don't need open right now. I don't need main view. Query tabs, these are the things we're kind of playing with. I don't need local subscriptions right now, so I'm going to kill all that. Let's go bring our Xcode over here. So the one thing I do want to have open is this, the Ditto query manager. This Ditto manager query, this is where a lot of the code for query is running. And so if I were to take a look here and see that I need to worry about, that's weird. Why is it? Oh, I had the wrong thing. I should be selecting this selector. I don't know how I was doing that. So let's take a look here. So we know that we want to save a history. So that's under query history here. This is our mark. Let's go take a look at query history here. So we'll see here, all we do is we go through and we try to make sure that we have a Ditto object that we can go talk to the database with. That's important. And then once we do that, we go through, create a query, and then just run it. So there's no business logic here whatsoever to try to calculate those things. That's what we need to add. One second here. My wife is texting me. Let's see what's going on here. What does she need real quick here? Just let me make sure. Just letting her know I'm streaming. I forgot to do that. That's my fault. I should probably put some stuff on the socials that I'm streaming. One second here. Discord. Post some stuff in Discord. Hopefully it does not open on the wrong monitor. That would be embarrassing. Okay, open on the right monitor. Let's see here. All right. Okay. So what we need to do here is actually check to see whether or not we have an item already in the database that meets that same text. So what we could do is make a new query. Let query, we want to do a query check equals, and would that work? I'm sending you in a query. When I create a new one, no, this won't work by ID. We want to say where query equals query, like that. Okay. And so then we need to say our let arguments check, and we're going to say query, and that's going to be history query. This is, so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. And then we just need to run that. Let query results. We're going to run that. So let's put some comments on what we're doing here. Check if we already have the query. If so, then what we want to do is just update the date. Otherwise, insert new record. Okay. So let's see here. The music may be a little loud, I'm thinking. Where's my ability to turn that music down just a hair? I'm trying a new music service. So the only reason I used Streamlabs was because it had royalty-free music. And I like music when I'm coding or podcasts. I do like one of the other. And so when I'm streaming, I want music. But the app, the Streamlab Music, they kind of killed it. And now they tell you to use Pretzel or Slipstream. So I'm trying Slipstream tonight. I miss Streamlabs. They had like a chillax channel of like techno music, technical kind of music that I really, really enjoyed a lot. I have some YouTube channels I normally listen to, but I think those will get me copyright struck. And so I don't want to do that. That seems like it'd be bad, right? So don't want to do that. All right, let's see here. So let's see here. We have a results check. So then what we want to do is we'd have to go through. We can take a look. We have this already in lifecycle, I think, right here where we hydrate out one of these. And so we could take a look at the code to hydrate. Well, actually, I take that back. We don't even need to do that. Really, what we should be able to do is say if the length is greater than 0, we have a record, right? And if we have a record, then we can just make the assumption that we got that record back. And then we don't want to do an insert. We want to do an update. But we wouldn't know. We do want to get it back because if we don't get it back, then the problem will be is that trying to think here. So we want to get it back because we want to get the ID, because if we get the ID, then we know the exact record to update. There could be a defect where if I just updated it by the query text itself, maybe there's multiple records in the database, and then that would kind of go ugly on us if there was like a defect. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I don't like the idea of updating just based on the query text. I think we want to deserialize this out and get the text back. So let's do that. Let's I had this open. Where did it go? So here's query history. So we can kind of borrow some code over here. We know that we want to get a decoder. So let's just get a decoder out right away. And that way we could, well, we don't need the decode. We do need a decoder. Let's put it here. I'm just thinking from a lifecycle standpoint. Okay, so we got a decoder. Actually, we don't need to make the decoder unless if results check dot items that count greater than 0, then we get a decoder ring out and do stuff. Else, we do this stuff down here. Okay, so I think we're good here. So if count is greater than 0, we're going to decode that, and then we just need to decode it. So we need to we would have to get, we actually just need the first item, and then what we could do is decode that first item. So I think what we can do is just say let item equal results check item first, right? And then we can say let guard let query history item equals decoder. And then this is where we just needed to decoder dot decode. And we're going to say that we want to pass in two things. We need a Ditto query history, right? Ditto query history dot self, and then from, and that's the item that we have, right? And that should, oh, item dot JSON data. Okay, that's looking else. Just return. Because I don't think we return anything, right? We just throw. Let's do this too. Guard let. So then some good we shouldn't need that anymore, right? So this should pop first, and then this should pop into the cycle statement, and that should get us back a query history item if everything works out right. And that's well, let's see what's going on here. What? Oh, try. We need to do a try on that. And then we need this to close because that's a statement, right? The only thing I don't like about streaming is this don't have a lot of screen real estate. Used to have a really big monitor to do this stuff. Let me make that a little bit smaller. So what do we got going on here? What's it saying? Initializer binding must have an optional type non-ditto query history. What? Oh. Right. That's what was going on. So, which this should do then. And the only thing I'm having now must have an optional type. Let query history item equals decoder. Try decoder dot decode self from. Is it mad because of the fact that we can't guarantee? Is it because we need something like this? And then we would say, is that why it's mad? So we'd have to say if let item here's this, then we would say this would be also if let item. If let item equals first, okay, so that's good. Then we'd say if let. It's still pissed off about this. Why is initializer for conditional binding must have optional type? That makes no sense to me. Why would we be saying that? Well, we have decoder code right here that's doing exactly this. Decode query history self. Why would we be? I think this is right. Guard. I think this is the right way to do it. Let item equals first, comma. And then we'd have this let statement here that would say let query here, else return, and then right. See what it's off about. Why are we having this? Let's ask the AI if it could tell me why. And this is I should have told it the decoder's having that error, not the guard statement. Let's see here. It says guard let item first, let try decode self from. Oh, decoder doesn't. That's what it's saying is the problem. Interesting. Okay. So they're saying guard the item to get it back out. That's what the AI is saying. So we're going to say, so in our guard statement here, we're just going to do that. So let's kill this out. First, else, return. Okay. Then we can do a do. But we don't really need a do because otherwise I have to rethrow the error. And this throws because the UI should catch the error and then show the error in the screen if there is one. So I don't think that that's a good idea to do. So then what we could just do is say let query history item equals decoder. And then we could do our go along our business here, right? So let's just say then var or let existing history equals that. So now that we have it, hey, look at this, it knows that. So we're gonna say existing history equals date existing history dot. Everything else should be the same. Oh shit, we don't even need that. We just need the ID. What am I doing here? I don't even have to set this. We just need a new query. Let query equal. We're gonna say update set create date equal this, where ID equals this. That's 100% right. And we're gonna say let arguments equal. We don't have to tell the type, do we? Yes, we do have to tell the type. And then we just need to pass in 2 arguments. We're going to say underscore ID or ID. Oh, and that's going to say this is an ID. And then we need the created date. Then we're going to say created date. Created date. We're going to say nope. We're going to say date ISO format. So that should get us an update, right? Trox, hello. How are you doing? I'm doing all right. Welcome to the stream. I'm doing as good as I can. So let's see here. Why is it mad? Let's see here. So that should be cool. What are we getting up here? Value of has no member. Yes, it does. It lies. Xcode lies. You're the perfect person for my question. Okay, maybe. I don't know if I'm the perfect person for a question, but shoot, more than happy to try to answer anything you may have. So then we're gonna say let underscore because I really don't care about the value. So, I mean, that's true. I have done React, Maui, Swift, Kotlin. Rust is my latest adventure of things I've been working through. Which is okay. Oh, your first take on cross-platform versus native. Oh, well. Oh, geez, oh, Pete. Oh, boy. I'm writing this app in SwiftUI. I think that I can just drop the mic right there and say it. I have another version of this app that I started writing in React. And yeah, it just, you're going to have React is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong; it's a cool framework, right? But you have to love CSS. You have to love all these other things, and it's if you're a web person, it's cool. But it's so here's my opinion, right? If you're looking for the best experience ever, and you care about your customer and experience, then go native. It's just you'll never hear the words "I can't do that." Because if you can't do it in native, then you can't do it at all, right? And so that's that is just the theory. If you want no holds barred, you want to be able to do any possible thing, and you want it to look like a native app, then you build it native. If you don't care about how it looks, you're just trying to get one code base, and you're willing to make some concessions with the UI, performance, and memory, then go cross-platform. And obviously the answer is if all you know is JavaScript, then go cross-platform, right? Because that's all you know. You can learn SwiftUI, but if you're just trying to ship software, that's hard. I look at it like this. If I've got a development team and all 5 of them know React, Why would I tell them to go write SwiftUI? Because all 5 of them have to learn SwiftUI, and it's probably not going to be the world's best app because they don't know SwiftUI. So that's not a good thing. And so really, to me, it's a lot of times it's about what is the team that I'm working on. What are they? What do they know? And then based on what they know, I'm going to pick the whatever language that makes sense for that. And when I was leading teams, that's exactly how I used to do it. Now, if I'm just writing a personal project, I'm going to pick whatever I want to play around with. Or like I said, if I really am trying to get something that I want people to use, and it's not just for me, then I want the best experience. I picked SwiftUI for this app specifically because I want this to be the most performant app on the planet. I want the memory usage to be really low. And I've been, the previous video, I kind of was walking through some profiling on this, and we're doing pretty good from a profiling standpoint. I mean, we're like on a big query that brings back like 21,000 records from the database. We're looking at less than 400 megabytes. Yeah, so it's, but yeah, if you want to make an iOS app and you don't care about Android, then go SwiftUI. Go SwiftUI. Don't even go React Native. You're gonna fight React Native so much. Just go SwiftUI. Honestly, SwiftUI syntax looks very similar to React. Swift is a pretty beautiful programming language from the standpoint is that it's easy to learn. It's functional. Anything that you do in React Native, you could do in SwiftUI. And if you don't care about Android or platform, you're going to get macOS and iPad for free, and you're going to have a bunch of components that you just don't have in React Native. And that's the thing that really sucks about React Native specifically is that you have to go hunt down components. If I had to choose and I was building an iOS app, honestly, React Native would not be on my list. Flutter would. Because Flutter has a bunch of UI components that are pretty good. And Flutter's performance is not bad in iOS. So if I had to choose platforms, right, and I was looking at this and I was writing it for myself and I knew I wanted just iOS, didn't care about anything else, I would probably either go SwiftUI or I'd go Flutter. And Flutter's more of a, hey, I know somewhere down the right, yeah, Dart, basically, right? And Dart is just JavaScript. Dart looks just like JavaScript when it comes down to it, right? But you're going to have all the threading problems that you have over in Dart. It doesn't have infinite amounts of threads. You have all the things you have to think about. And it's no different than React Native. React Native honestly has all kinds of these problems too. You got your JavaScript thread, then you have your events thread and stuff. So, I mean, it's neither one of those platforms are ever going to get you the performance and the beauty that you're going to get in SwiftUI. Just use SwiftUI if that's it. You have to make concessions if you're going to go to React Native or Flutter. But yeah, start learning Swift. I truly believe it. Swift's a great language. There's a lot of work out there. If you're a developer, if you're trying to be getting into the space and stuff, there's tons. Go look at LinkedIn, right? I mean, here's the other thing. If you're just trying to get a job in this space in mobile development, the real answer is just go to LinkedIn, wherever you want to work, and go look to see what's out there. And whatever jobs are out there, learn that and do that because that's going to get you paid. That's going to get you payday. So if that's what you're trying to do, that's also the thing to think, hey, if I'm in a area like Atlanta, Georgia, in the US here, and the most popular development job postings are for .NET, I would be trying my best to be the world's best .NET developer then, just so I can get work because I got to pay those bills, man. That's what it comes down to. Got to pay bills. So, but yeah, that's my answer to that long-winded answer. So we're going to go through and say, try, we're going to do this. We don't care about the result per se. We could say, result, we could do this and we could just make sure that we have a mutated ID back. So I am mainly a mobile developer, but I do all the languages. So I'm a developer advocate, and I have advocate. I work for a company called Ditto, the database company. And so I write on a regular basis, every language, every platform, on a regular basis. I've been doing that for many years, probably. And when I was the technical lead at EY, Ernst & Young, I was the mobile technical lead there. I wrote also in several different languages. So because we had so many different mobile apps, sometimes we would write them in something like Cordova. Some apps were written in .NET with, back then it was called Xamarin Forms, and some of them were native. Some of them were Swift, and back then it wasn't Kotlin, it was mostly Java. But I've worked on all the platforms, and on a daily basis, I write in just about anything. Like I said, Flutter and React Native are new to the Ditto, so I've been writing a lot of those, but it's mostly because we're trying to show off to customers like this is how you do it. Which language do you like the most? Personally, I feel the most comfortable writing Kotlin on Android because when I worked at Couchbase, the company I worked at prior, I wrote a lot of Android stuff. They were just shipping support for Kotlin, so I spent a lot of time writing a lot of stuff around that. And that Android's really kind of big, so that I just got really comfortable writing Jetpack Compose. And honestly, SwiftUI and Swift look very similar to Jetpack Compose and Kotlin. Swift and Kotlin are very similar from two languages. If you know Swift, you kind of don't have to do that much to learn Kotlin. They're very, very similar. So that's a beautiful thing. And Jetpack Compose, the nice thing about that also is that the concepts of composables are almost the exact same thing over here in SwiftUI. So I would say that you can kind of cross-platform. If you know SwiftUI and Swift, if you're a good developer, you understand computer science, you can learn Jetpack Compose and Kotlin. But my favorite things to write in are either SwiftUI with Swift or Jetpack Compose with Kotlin. And the two languages are so. I find myself, if I write too much Swift and I go to write Kotlin, I accidentally am writing Swift in my Kotlin because I forget. And there's little differences, like a function in Swift is func, and in Kotlin it's fun. So it's these little tiny differences you have to understand. But I mean, the languages are almost exactly the same, which is really kind of cool. Like I said, in 2025, if you asked me 10 years ago, the problem was it used to take a lot of work to build mobile apps because UIKit was the old framework. And then in Android, we had something called views. And so a lot of times companies were looking to do cross-platform like .NET MAUI or even like Cordova because the cost of building the software was so expensive to build the mobile apps. That has changed in the last 5 years. Now these apps are so easy to build in SwiftUI and Kotlin with Jetpack Compose that I make the argument that you're going to have a better experience if you go native. And honestly, it's not cost you what it used to cost you anymore because it's a lot easier. The frameworks have gotten a lot better. Closures are great in Swift, and closures are great in Kotlin too. They work almost the exact same way. They are, like I said, they are two peas in the same pod when it comes down to it. And honestly, I had a bug yesterday in my code, and it was a closure problem. And I wasn't using closures, and I was trying to so actors are kind of the hardest part in Swift UI and Swift in general to get over is this the new way that they do threading with main actor versus actors and understanding that. And so my database manager, I want that to be not on the main thread. So I don't want that as a main actor. I want it to be a regular actor. Okay, but then they talk to the UI when I have events that happen, like, hey, some stuff is updated from the database. I want to show that in the UI. Well, I got to cross that, right? I have to cross that thread. Well, Combine allows you to publish things, right? And that's one way to do it. But I was really trying to hold the publish too close to the database. And that was my flaw, was because I'm so used to view controllers back in the old days of UIKit. And in a view controller, you would hold all that stuff there. But really in SwiftUI, what I'm finding more and more is just build yourself a view model. It's a perfectly fine syntax. Do your publishing there and have a callback to the database so that anytime the database updates, just have it do a callback to the view model and then have it run the code that actually updates the publisher. And then the publisher will break that thread from the actor to the main actor. And just make sure your view model is on the main actor. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful syntax. It solves so many problems, and it's really elegant. The code is very small to do this. So I could take a look at this exact result and make sure that that happens. For right now, we're just gonna do this to basically send it to the ether, and we're gonna make the assumption that the query works. So let's go through and test this because by theory, this should actually work. Let's see here. So let's go through. We're gonna pick an app here, and so we got our querying going on here. And you can see here, I've got a bunch of different queries going on, and I've got my select star from movies. Let's try, I don't have that in my history yet. So let's say, let's run this one again, okay? And by theory, what should happen now is that should go to the top. It shouldn't duplicate. So let's go ahead and run that, and it did it. It went to the top. You can see here, it just switched itself up. So let's actually take that out though and say limit 10. Now we should get a new query. We got a new query. And if we go back to this query again, and run it again, that query should jump to the top now, and it should not duplicate. And there we go. And so that means that we now have it where the query history is updating. So that was pretty easy. I mean, it was like maybe 10 lines of code to fix this. And this is going to keep us from getting the history all kind of garbagey up and that kind of stuff, right? So I think we have a feature parity of what I was really looking for from the collection standpoint. My collections now work. if I were to do a new collection, this actually should very quickly update without having to do anything. We should probably test that. I haven't actually tested that code. So how collections work is based on subscriptions. So let's go here. And oh, that was how to set up OBS to multi-stream. Thanks TBD Gamer that gave me the hint on how to do that. I am still using Streamlab because it's a lot of work to get OBS set up, and I didn't have time tonight, and I just wanted to do some streaming. So I was like, I'm just going to use Streamlab again tonight, but I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get it set up. Let's see here. So I am trying to go and find the MongoDB portal because I don't remember the name of the collection in Mongo that this app is syncing to. So I'm going to go back there and log back in and see if I can find that collection name. And why is it blew up on something here? So let's just go here and say what's going on. Let me log in with me Googles. And I have this off stream because there's some important information there, keys and stuff I don't want people to see because this actually is, that's my work stuff. So we're not going to do that. So it's called Theaters. That's the other collection in MongoDB. So this, how this app works is the data is actually coming from MongoDB. And then Ditto, the company I work for, we have a cloud service that hooks into that MongoDB and makes it so that you get all that data without having to do any work in your mobile app. And we can sync either via the cloud or we can sync with other devices that are currently running. And so let's go through and make a new subscription. If I make a new subscription, the theory is that once the subscription starts, the collection should magically show up in the query. So how I do that right now in the current UI is kind of shit. I've got to go through and make that better, make it like the query, but this is older UI, so that's fine. We're going to call this theaters. So we're just going to go here and we're going to say select star from theaters. We don't need any arguments. We're just going to grab all the theaters regardless of where they're at. We don't care. Let's go ahead and save that. So this takes about 5 to 10 seconds to sync down about 10,000, 20,000 documents. So let's go to query. And the collection automatically shows up. So that's what we were having the bug. The bug was once you had a subscription, you'd have to completely close the app and then bring it back up to see the collection change. So let's go through and check to see what that is. We've got 1,564 local theaters now in the database. And if I were to go look at the web server, I can go to the cloud and say, what does the cloud have to make sure that these match? They should match. And if they match, then I know that my code's cool. And I've got the same amount of items. You can see here, it just reran. I know that it looks fast, and it is. You'll see a little spinner here. It takes, and that's all it takes to run. And we can prove that because we could just say limit 100, and we should get 100 results back now from the cloud instead. And it was almost pretty close to instant, right? Once they're in cache, it's a lot faster for any database platform, right? So since I've already ran this query, the optimizer, the database knows, oh, okay, this is the stuff he wants. It's going to be in memory. And that means anytime I substantially run it afterwards, it's going to be near that speed. Let's see here. So that is cool. So I think we've got, like I said, I think we've got locked in the major 3 features here to be able to ship this. Our collections are working. We can add history from those, or we can add a select statement just by clicking on these. Our history is working. We can keep track of these. I can just simply say, I want to delete that one. I want to favorite this one. And then our favorites are automatically updating based on that. And if I were to run this one again, it should go to the top. And it went to the top already. It's that fast. And once again, this is all done with observables using closures. So that's no Swift data. I'm using Ditto, which is the company I work for. And so Ditto is a kind of competitor to Swift data in some sense. We're a database that allows syncing. In fact, I can show that off in real time here. I was showing it off yesterday. Let me open up the Flutter app. Let's see here. Runner. Why is there 2 runners? Okay, that opened to a different screen. We'll go here. Ooh, I don't know if that's good. It's saying Flutter, or it's saying Kotlin Jetpack Compose. Why would it be saying that? I'm not sure why it says that, but let's find out here. I've got a device over here that I've got a Flutter app on. And that device is now up. You should be able to see it. Come on, Xcode, you can see it. It's up. Why is it saying that it's not up? It's there. Let's see here. Let's close out this guy right here. Okay, Xcode's not saying I can see it. You can't see it though, so let's do this. QuickTime, because it's a physical device. Boy, when you're doing peer-to-peer testing, you want to have physical devices. Let's do a screen record. Oop, not screen recording. We want to do a new movie recording, and then we're going to select that phone as the device we want to record from. So right here, oh, it already did for me. Perfect. So this is that physical device. Okay, so that's running right now. No, it's a local database. So in Ditto, it's Swift Data. Swift Data writes everything down to a SQLite database behind the scenes, and it's kind of on that device only, and it will sync to iCloud and stuff for you. That's Swift Data. Our platform is like Swift Data in the sense that it's local on your phone or wherever computer you're on, wherever the app is installed to. It's a local database. However, it can sync to the cloud, or it can sync with multiple devices without any cloud whatsoever. So I can have, it's called peer-to-peer syncing. So I can sync however I want to sync, wherever I want to sync with any device. It doesn't have to just be iOS. Swift Data, you're kind of stuck with just Swift Data, right? But for example, I could take the app or write, and yes, it's kind of like SQLite. It's kind of Ditto is kind of like SQLite, but with super awesome powers of peer-to-peer syncing that nobody else does this. Even the company I used to work at, Couchbase, which also makes a mobile database, does not do peer-to-peer syncing. That's what we are. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do. That's super awesome. In fact, let me show you this off, and you can see just how crazy this idea is. So I'm going to just make our app here, our Ditto app here, my query editor, pretty cool here. So I've got this real mobile app that I'm running right now, and this tool I'm writing is for debugging and figure out what the heck's going on. So in this app, what I want to do is I want to see whether or not I'm syncing information back and forth between this app and this other device. So to start out with, I can go to Ditto Tools here, and I can go to the Presence Viewer, and I should be able to see right here, this localhost, that's this app running over here on this iPhone. And it's not even a iOS, it's not a Swift app, it's running in Flutter. So this is just because it was a demo app that I needed to write to show off Flutter. So it's running on iOS, but it is Flutter, and it's fine. It has native performance. I mean, Flutter is not bad per se. Like I said, it's just Dart, when it comes down to it. But we can see here that the year is 2021 on Rio 2, right? So what we want to be able to do is see what the hell is going on here to see whether that data is syncing. So what we want to be able to do is look at those movies. So let's go through here and say select movies. And this is where I always get a little screwed up, where year equals, and you have to remember whether or not it's single quote or double quote. That's what always gets me screwed up. So right here, we've got one movie in the year 2021, and that is Rio. Okay. It's this Rio 2. We can look at the title here. We should be able to see it. Where's the title? Year 2021, the website's a movie, title Rio 2. Okay. So that's what we currently have on the screen. That logically makes sense to me, right? That is on the screen. I want this to automatically update. So if I update this mobile app, I should see the change here because these two devices are connected to each other via peer-to-peer. To go back to Ditto Tools to show you that again, see this peer-to-peer? This mobile phone is connected to this app via peer-to-peer. It doesn't need to go to the cloud. It can literally talk between these two apps without having to do that. In fact, this device here, this local device, doesn't have an internet connection. So it's connecting to the cloud through me, through my app right here, this Mac app. That's how it's getting data up to the cloud. And that's the cool thing that this can do. So by theory, what should happen is if I update it on this phone, it should update this Mac app. And then this Mac app will go to the cloud and update it, make sure that MongoDB knows about it. Okay, so let's try it. We're going to go ahead and hit the pencil icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go through and change the date. It's a physical device, so I have to actually click on it and actually physically type in things. So I'm going to make it 21. That's in the future. I get it, right? I don't have a time machine, but that is in the future. I'm going to click save. And now the movie is updated. You see here it says 2021. And now what happens is if I run this query again, it should be blank. There's nothing there. And if I were to switch this to 2121, we have our movie. It instantaneously updated. So this device that has no internet connection went to my Mac, and it's registered to some Ditto app ID, so it knows I can sync between these two, even though they're not the same app. It doesn't matter. What matters is the Ditto app ID. It goes through and says, oh, you're also the same Ditto app ID. Because you're that, we can share data with each other. And so it simultaneously went and updated my local database on my Mac app from that phone database. And now my Mac app is going through and updating the cloud. And MongoDB should now see that change also. So when you say peer-to-peer without internet, it's like AirDrop or Bluetooth or something like that. Yes, absolutely it is. Absolutely. So the technology that we use is the same exact technology that AirDrop uses. And we can also use Bluetooth. And that's how we would talk if there's an Android device, because Apple has its proprietary AWDL, this is called. And that is Apple's proprietary peer-to-peer Wi-Fi. And over in Android and PC land, that's called Wi-Fi Aware. Okay, so since these two technologies are not compatible with each other, we need some other layer if we need to talk between an iOS device and an Android device, and we usually use Bluetooth. If Wi-Fi is not available. If you're not on both on a Wi-Fi network, then we'll use Bluetooth to talk between the two. And that's how it works. But technically speaking, between two Apple devices, we use the same technology. That's what AirDrop uses. And also, if you screencast your screen from your Mac AirPlay, if you AirPlay from like your device up to an Apple TV, that's also peer-to-peer wireless, and that also uses AWDL. So AWDL is a pretty cool piece of technology. That's my work browser. Let's not have my work browser open. That's bad, right? Let's go to this browser. This is my personal browser. I feel a little bit safer here. And we could just do this real quick. AWDL versus Wi-Fi Aware. And you can see here, AWDL is Apple Wireless Direct Link, and Wi-Fi Aware, they both do peer-to-peer. They're just different. AWDL is Apple's proprietary technology, and Wi-Fi Aware is the industry standard. You'll see here that there's actually a blog article that the UK is going to require, or the EU is going to require Apple to support Wi-Fi Aware in the next major release of iOS. I don't think that that's going to ship this year, so it won't be the year. It won't be like announced next week, but a year from next week when Apple does that, they'll have to legally have to support Wi-Fi Aware. Yeah, so if they're in different locations, then you just use the cloud. So at that point in time, you either use your own server. You can run Ditto like on its own server that is in your data center, or we have a cloud product, and you can just use the Ditto cloud product then. And so what will happen is that device will go up to the Ditto cloud and sync, and then the other device in a totally different country will also go to the Ditto cloud and sync. And then that's how you can sync the data also. So it's it's up to you. Obviously, our product is really used a lot in like point of sale systems. And so Chick-fil-A, they're here in the US, they're very, very big. And Chick-fil-A, they want Ditto because they have a bunch of tablets that they do all the ordering on. So if you've ever been to a Chick-fil-A here in the US, they have a bunch of kids standing out in the drive-in. They go through and they do an order on their tablet. And then what happens is that order instantaneously goes over to something called the KDS, the Kitchen Display System. Okay. And that's where the people inside of the fast food restaurant are actually cooking the food and making sure that it's available. And the whole theory is that these tablets and that KDS should be able to continue to function even if the internet goes down. You don't want to shut down your McDonald's because of the fact you don't have internet. And that's where the peer-to-peer technology really kind of kicks in, where businesses want to use it, because the idea is that I can run autonomously. I don't need the cloud and stuff to actually just get orders in and do stuff. So if your whole point of sale system requires the cloud and your internet goes down because some jackass is ripping up the street down and cuts the fiber, and now you got to close the drive-in, that ain't going to work. So in the past, what would also happen is that people like McDonald's will put big server racks in their restaurant. They'd have a bunch of servers that'd be local, and that's how the point of sale system would run. Well, that's a bunch of hardware you have to put in every single store. If you have thousands of stores, that's just really expensive. And honestly, in these stores, that storage space is like ridiculously expensive. If you look at square footage, right? So the idea of Ditto is you don't need any of that equipment. You just basically run your main device could just be a tablet, an iPad, or an Android tablet. And as long as one device can connect to the internet, it will still sync all that information up to the cloud without needing all this fancy equipment. And so that's the reason why people like Chick-fil-A really like Ditto and like this whole syncing thing, because it's really great. That's what we're kind of designed to, where we win, is when we talk about peer-to-peer and this great thing. Don't get me wrong, you could use it just for regular storage, like you described earlier, cloud storage and stuff. And we do that. Couchbase does that. PowerSync does that. There's a bunch of companies. Technically speaking, SwiftData does it. There's a lot of companies doing that per se, right? Don't get me wrong. That's easy. doing the peer-to-peer stuff is hard. That's the thing that makes us unique. It makes us kind of cool. Now with this, like I said, sometimes troubleshooting. Why? What's going wrong? When you have some code that you didn't do right, you didn't read the docs, or maybe our docs weren't up to date. That the troubleshooting is the hard part. When the peer-to-peer stuff doesn't work, you can be flustered a little bit. So that's what this app I'm currently working on solves that problem. It's a troubleshooting tool that allows a developer to kind of see what the heck's going on here. I should be able to see if I run that query again here. I should be able to go to the server and see that this record's also updated. Okay, and if this record wasn't updated on the server, I would be kind of concerned. That would tell me that somehow the mobile app here got updated. It went to my Mac and updated, but my Mac didn't update the cloud. But that's not possible, right? Because if we look at the presence viewer here, you can see here that my Mac app is connected to the cloud, even though the peer-to-peer app here, this mobile app, is connected via both peer-to-peer Wi-Fi and LAN. And LAN just means Wi-Fi, by the way. Peer-to-peer Wi-Fi is very specifically separate from regular Wi-Fi. Regular Wi-Fi means you have an access point and you're both connected. Peer-to-peer Wi-Fi means there's no access point needed. It is by itself. You just upload it, and that's how it works. So with Ditto, like I said, not every mobile developer is a network expert, right? And so that's where you have to have some understanding of networking, and that's where this kind of tool that I'm writing will help you out greatly in these kind of things. But for your app, isn't it better to make a web app? I mean, with Mac, you can use it in Windows or Linux. I wrote a version of this on the web, and I just hate. I'm not a fan of CSS, to tell you the truth. And I know that I can make this a beautiful experience in SwiftUI. And I'm also a .NET developer. I did .NET for over 10 years, and if I need this to run on Linux and Windows, I'll just write a .NET version. And now I have a native version here of Swift that's going to be the best Apple experience in the world. I can have this .NET experiences that will look like a Windows app and run like a Windows app or a Linux app, right? And do that. And that's probably what I'll end up doing. Or, like I said, I could go down the web road. And honestly, I do have a version of that web app. Where is it here? In my local, let's see here, github.com. As your repositories, I do have this right here. So this Ditto Edge client was the original version of the POC that I was working on. That was a web version of it, and it used Tori. Tori is a kind of competitor to Electron. Electron is very heavy in memory. I'm not a fan of Electron. I know VS Code's written in Electron, don't get me wrong, but it's also bloatware. And you add enough plugins of VS Code, and it starts to sync very quickly. So I used Dino with Tori and React. And I got this to the point where I could list apps and stuff, and I had a lot of CSS bugs. And then having to go through and fight overflow of like why the scroll bar shouldn't be appearing versus appearing. It's just very not fun, to tell you the truth. And I don't do web every day, so then it just became like tedious. It wasn't like I was building an experience of like helping developers troubleshoot things. I was fighting CSS and figuring out like, why doesn't this Tailwind thing do the thing I think it should do? That's not fun as a developer. And I started realizing, in all the time I'm fighting CSS and stuff because I don't use it every day, I could probably have half this thing written in SwiftUI. And that's the reason why I picked SwiftUI then, because I'm not a full-time web developer anymore, and I haven't been in several years. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And so sometimes fighting very complicated CSS is not fun. And this is a complicated app. In the standpoint of I want to have like triple panes here. I want to have double panes on some of the views. And this should be dynamic. I want the ability to make these things so they can move up and down. And I want this to be very close to the same experience on iPad. Because I use an iPad all the freaking time. In fact, I think Nick, if he's watching the stream, Nick knows this very well. I am an iPad user more than an iPhone user. Most of the time I have one of several iPads I carry with me. This is my iPad Pro. This is like the 11-inch or whatever that is. But I've got a mini right here, also on a mount that I use. And when I go from the house, I'm in my home office, which is a separate building. When I come out to the shop in my home office, I don't really ever bring my phone usually. I just bring my iPad because the iPad has a keyboard on it, and it's really nice. And I'm old, I'm 50, so my eyesight isn't great. And on the screen, mobile screen, I can't see it all that well anymore, even with the biggest mobile screen out there. So I really prefer an iPad when I can. But let's show this off. Actually, let's test this because we haven't tested an iPad in a while. We'll keep the Flutter app running. I'll just put this off over to the side here. We'll keep that Flutter app running just in case we want to do some more testing there. That's not a bad thing, but we'll keep it off to the side right now. Here's our app currently running. Let's close the Mac version of the app and let's open it up on iPad. And I happen to have a simulator open here with it, and this should just push the simulator. And here's the beauty of SwiftUI. SwiftUI is multi-platform from an Apple standpoint. So when you write SwiftUI, you get basically an iPad app, you get an iPhone app, you get a Mac app. If you want it, you have an Apple TV app, and we run on Apple TV. So I could technically speaking have this run on Apple TV, and this by theory should just work for the most part. You may have to tweak a little bit. I mean, SwiftUI, I'm not gonna paint it like it's roses. If you go look at my code, which we'll show it a little bit here, there's a lot of if OS equals Mac OS, then draw this UI, else draw this UI, because there are differences, and I can show you some of the biggest ones that I wish Apple would fix. So you can see here we have triple pane here, and this works exactly like the Mac app was working, where we have the triple pane, and that's working. If I go to query here, query works the same way. So you can see here I've got history, I've got some favorites, and this all should work. So if I were to, for example, you'll see here I only have 2 collections right now, right? So I need to make a subscription to get another collection. So I'm going to go and say, go get this from the server. So I'm going to grab the comments. So I'm going to call this comments, and then I'm going to say, select star from comments, and that's cool. Let's go ahead and save that. We have our collection. By theory, if we go over to query, we should, now it takes a few seconds to sync. So the difference here is you'll see that comments is listed here, but over in query, it's not listed yet. That means it hasn't synced the information. Now there's another chance that it's not called comments, it's just called comment, which is a very good possibility. Let me find where my, MongoDB is and find out what that is called. Comments. No, that's right. COMMENTS. That is right. Go back to query. There it is. It just took a few seconds to sync because there's a lot of records. If I were to click this now and run a query on that, 41,000 records. So that's why it took so long. And if I were to go to my history, we can see here my history is working, even though, like I said, this is a cross-platform. So I wrote that code for macOS. It's also working here. If I were to go through, I can favorite that query. So let's go here. Now, the favorite's different. You have to write different code for this. In macOS, you would right-click, and it would register a gesture, basically, for right-click, and they call it a context menu. But in iPad and iOS, you have to do a swipe gesture. So when I swipe, you'll see here I have 2 options. I can either delete this or I can favorite it with the star. So I'm going to click the star, and now it's over here in my favorites. And if I want to get rid of it, I have to swipe here. So for example, if I want to get rid of this one, I can just swipe from right to left and then hit the delete. And that's how you handle it over here. So that's separate code. And we can go look at that. Let's go look at that in... That's true. So that's the data store feature is something that I wrote last weekend, and I haven't touched it since. So right now, the branch I'm working on right now is the query branch. I'm just trying to get this tab to the point where it works. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the data store tab and then completely rewrite that UI and really kind of get it, because I just feverishly wrote something just to get something to look at. Right? I didn't even know what the UI wanted it to look at. I just like, how can I get this app working as quickly as possible so I can start really thinking through, like, what do I want this to be when it grows up? And so data store was just kind of hacked in very quickly. There was very little thought put into the data store tab whatsoever. And it looks like garbage. Well, and I'm okay with that because of the fact that I haven't really given it love, like over here in the query tab, which I've spent the last 3 or 4 days working on to make sure it's the best experience I can make. So I feel like query is just about done here, to tell you the truth. Now, there's one caveat that, so there's a couple different things I was describing here, right? In macOS, I do a context menu. Over here, I have to do something called a swipe gesture. And so there's code that I have that has to check the operating system and then has to do those actions depending on what operating system you're on. The other thing that doesn't happen is I can't move the results or the query to make them bigger or smaller. And the reason for this is that the component that I'm using here is called a split view, and a vertical split view to be more precise. In macOS, the vertical split view is supported. In iPad and iPhone, it doesn't exist. So I can't make this movable. So I had to have different UI code. I have to check the operating system. And then when I render this tab, I have to render it differently in iPhone and iPad than I do over in macOS because it doesn't have the same components available. And that's a bummer, to tell you the truth. Something I'm not hugely happy about. I wish they would have split view, at least in the iPad, but most people don't know this. Also, iPad is just iOS. Even though Apple has marketing that says there's a separate operating system called iPadOS, from a Swift standpoint, it's just iOS. And instead, you have to check the screen size to see whether or not it's an iPad or an iPhone. Womp, 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 womp. Yeah, Apple, thanks. I really wish that they would make the pound def statements work like they do with macOS. And if you want to see that, I can show you that to you. Let's see here. Let's go into our query toolbar view. So that's our code right here. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. Very quickly, we'll get into the code of what this does, right? So if we take a look here, we can see here, if macOS, right here. So this is drawn our history. So we have a VStack. We're doing a list of these. We don't need a lazy list because this dynamically updates, so it's not really needed per se. We have a VStack. The VStack's needed because without the VStack, I couldn't get the text wrapping to work. So I had to put the text in there. And then you'll see here, this is the code. So if OS is macOS, then I'm going to make a context menu and give you the option to either delete a query or to favorite it. However, if it's not macOS, it's any other platform, then we're going to support the swipe actions and do the same thing. It's just different UI code. And this is my UI is my SwiftUI UI code is riddled with this. There's just this code all over the place for the differences between the two platforms. You have to write that. And so I don't necessarily like that per se, but that's SwiftUI. There isn't a great way to do this otherwise, to tell you the truth. Back in the old days of UIKit and AppKit, you could share some of your business logic. So you'd take all your Swift code and put it like in a library that you could share between the two apps. But you would have to write a totally separate app, an AppKit for Mac and then UIKit for iOS back in the old days. So this is a huge step forward. And hopefully they solve some of the problems, the stupid problems between these two things. Probably the biggest one that you're going to run into if you try to do this is color. In macOS, colors are called NS color. And in UIKit and all those other platforms like iPadOS, it's called just regular color. And so if you want to change the color on something, you have to have platform specific code. And you'll have to take that color, you'll have to build it as a variable, as an NS color in macOS, and then a regular color object in iOS and the other platforms that support that. Let's see here. But for your app, isn't it better to make, let's see here. Let's show the power of SwiftUI is making complex UIs. Be good to know to make some progress bars to show. Yeah, I do agree with that. And then all about getting logs and troubleshooting what's wrong, right? Oh yeah, and so this app does do that. In some sense, there is some ninja things. Oops, I'm still running an iPad. Let's go back to macOS. I use an iPad every day, so I would probably, to tell you the truth, if I was like troubleshooting this, I'd probably be running this app on my iPad. But when I'm developing it, I mostly think that our customers are not iPad users. I know I'm like a very rare person doing that. So because of that, I'm trying to make the experience really good on macOS and then as best as I can on iPad. It's definitely not the first platform of choice for the app. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you go to Ditto tools here, I do give you the access to see the disk stuff. You can export the data directory and all the logs or the log folder in here. So you would have the ability to see the Ditto logs here. So if you're troubleshooting, this app is going to give you the ability to see all that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. You'd have a better idea of what the hell's going on in the universe, quite honestly. And I have to go back. There's a guy I work with named Brian, and his team writes the tools, and so I'm just a consumer of his tools. So we're talking about making some changes to tools, and when we do that, I'll probably some of this code will update. I may contribute some code to the tools to make the tools experience a little bit better than what it is right now. We'll see what happens with that. Let's see here. So what's the last couple of things I want to be able to do here before I can say that the query tab is done, like turkey, and we can say that it's cool. So one, there's a couple things that are aggravating the crap out of me. So one is the results items here. If there's no item found, it still shows one item found when there's nothing there. And if you were to open the screen for the first time, it also shows you there's one item. And that's just because I haven't went updated that code. So you'll see here there's one result item, because technically speaking, there is. It's just a blank item. So the counter says, well, there is something there. So make the count 1. But that's wrong. There's no result whatsoever. So we need to fix that. So we can go take a look at improving that. And then what I think we want to do is we'll have to check to see whether or not we know we have items. If we have items, then we need to make the export button. This is an export button that allows you to save all the results off the disk. That's another feature that I would like to have happen. Right now, what you could do if you wanted to get it off the disk is you can just find one of these JSON records. And if you just click on it, it copies it to the clipboard. And if I were to call up something like text edit, make a new document and just make this format of plain. The minute you select one of these, it just copies to the clipboard, and then you can just paste it in, and you can then go through and maybe tweak this document and then resave it, whatever you want to do. I don't care, right? Most of the people are looking, they want to look at the data and see what's going on, because like I have that mobile app running and I made some data changes. I'm really trying to make sure that the fields I changed actually show up here. That's probably one of the bigger things people troubleshoot. The other thing is that this database is not like a SQL database in the standpoint of that you have a schema where you have columns and rows, okay? And here it's a document database. It's a JSON document, which means it's schemaless, which means you could have one document that has a bunch of fields in it, like this cast, and another one may not have that cast at all. That's okay. And so, oh yeah, not a problem, man. Thanks for jumping on the stream. And so one of the problems is I may not have that in one of these records. And so then the problem is I want to be able to look at that to see what the hell's going on here. So that's why you want to export out the documents. And that's a feature. So you can see here how I have it. It's grayed out because I didn't write it. And anytime. I'll be streaming a lot more often now. Probably I'll have a lunch stream daily in the US here. I'm in Central Time Zone, so it'll probably be 12, 1-ish, something like that. I'll probably be doing an hour stream every day at lunch, maybe an hour and a half. And then on the weekends, I'll probably do streams also. So, and it'll probably around this time on the Saturday and Sunday night. So it's usually after supper for me that I try to get in and get a couple hours of streaming in. So I think what we're going to do next here, and I am thinking that I'm going to write an exporter that exports all the documents and serializes that down. But before we do that, we have to know whether or not a query really ran. So the first thing we need to really fix truly is to make sure that we understand the state of things. Did really a query run or not? Because if the query did not run, in the standpoint here that we have one but not, then it should be gray. It only should be not great if the query ran and we have some results to actually export. So let's figure that out. So let's go ahead and close out the app. I think we've done enough talking here. Let's go do some coding here. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So we know that, well, I know that, you probably don't, the viewer, but I wrote this, so I know everything about it. That code would be in a couple different spots. So one, we have a tab view. This is our query tab view. And then there's three parts of the tab view. You have the toolbar on the left. We have the query editor that's on the top part. And then on the bottom part, we have the results of the query. So this would actually be in the results code. So we'll see here that if we take a look here at our detail, because this is a split view and it's using a navigation split view, in our detail, you'll see here that we have the query editor and the query results, and we send in a pointer to the view model. This is probably not the way we want to do it long term. This is, once again, code I knew I had to refactor. Breakpoint, sending the full view model pointer in means that this is not reusable if I want to reuse it somewhere else. Instead, we should just be sending in the data into that view and then have it use the data, right? So let's take a look. Let's jump to definition, and that should open up that file. We'll bring it over here. So we have it over here and take a look at it. So you can see here that we're bringing in the view model, but what do we need the view model for? Well, we need it for the results mode. So we'll have to pass that in and we'll have to bind to it. That's important. And if we take a look at our view model here now, let's take a look and see what it's subscribing to. It says it needs the results mode. That would make sense because it doesn't know whether or not to show the results in JSON or table. I haven't wrote the table code yet. And I'm honestly not sure if I should do that at all. Maybe I should get rid of the table idea because I'm not a fan of tables. Not so sure if that's a good idea. But for right now, we'll have to map that in. So we'll have to bring that property in. What else do we currently draw here? We need the result mode here also. We haven't done the do on the table viewer, but we should also need the actual results right here. Okay, yeah, so the JSON results, here they are. And we send that to the results JSON viewer. Okay, so this is the component. we also need to modify. So let's open up this, jump to this definition. We'll bring this over here instead. We'll see here that then the results is just basically a VStack that has a header that says the count of items and then the list. So this is where we got the problem. The results text that we're bringing in, we don't really know if that is true. So we need some different code that actually calculates whether or not that's a good idea. We should probably send that in of saying the count. So we should probably calculate that outside of the component and just send in the count. Should be stupid. It should just know how to draw stuff. It should be that smart where it knows how to calculate it. It shouldn't need to do that. It's just a results viewer, right? Let's see here. So we can close toolbar for right now and we can go back to tab view because tab view is what I think we're getting the view model from. Yep. So we probably need a calculated field that would tell us the count of the results. So let's go do that. So we'll say results field and we'll say var results count. This is going to be an int. And we initialize, we'll just set it to 0. Let's see here. There's our query. Results self dot results count equals 0. Okay. We'll start with that. We'll say that there's no counts whatsoever. And then now that should at least fix us from that standpoint. Hey, xpv bio underscore. That's a weird screen name, but hey, how's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. We're working on a SwiftUI application for macOS, iPad, phone, all those kind of things, using a mobile database. And pretty much this is kind of like a mobile / macOS programming. I do other languages and stuff, but it means Pablo. Okay. I used to work with a guy named Pablo. I worked at EY for many years, and he was in Argentina. And so I used to have a whole team that was in South America and Colombia and Argentina. And he was a pretty awesome guy, to tell you the truth. I miss him. Very smart person. I want to learn Swift and SwiftUI, but I don't know where to start. Well, that's a very that's a pretty good thing to want to learn if you want to build cool apps and stuff. Swift and SwiftUI are probably the best. Have you done any programming whatsoever in your life? Do you have any kind of computer science background is basically my question. So if I said, and honestly, do you have any math? You're from Chile. Okay. Chile's a pretty cool place. If you have computer science background, this isn't hard. If you don't have computer science background, it's still not impossible, but it means you're going to have to learn SwiftUI and computer science at the same time. Because SwiftUI is just the implementation of core computer science concepts, right? I mean, that's how we build apps is we use computer, programming languages to do that. And so there's things like arrays. Well, arrays, it doesn't matter if you're learning Swift or you're using JavaScript or you're using Python, array is an array. I've been starting with ChatGPT. I've been learning about binding states and other things. Yes, bindings and states are important. That's these have to do with how we the app keeps track of information in memory, and how it knows whether or not something should be updated on the screen or not. And so that's what a binding kind of does is we say, hey, we've got this information in memory and I've updated it. So the UI, you need to draw it when this updates. And we don't necessarily want to have to write a bunch of code to do that. And so the states and bindings kind of do that for us. As long as we update whatever that is, then the UI will look at that and say, oh, you updated the list of documents that are available. I'm going to go through now and refresh the UI for you. Back in the old day, you have to write all that by hand. And it wasn't necessarily the best code. Developers were cranky about it. So Apple made it a lot better with SwiftUI. If you're looking for some resources for learning, Apple's website is one of the, honestly, their developer website is really pretty good. It's better than most, I'll be honest with you. As a guy that's been doing this for a super long time, I will tell you right now that yes, it is a pretty darn cool thing. But there's a couple other websites. One, honestly, YouTube is pretty great. There's a lot of content on YouTube to learn, but I mean, probably one of the biggest things is there's too much, right? You just don't know who to trust, and that's not great. But under develop on Apple's website, let me kind of bring it over here. This is Apple's great website, and SwiftUI. They usually have an entire they have a little sample app getting started, whereas the Swift tutorials. So this is one I recommend. This, if you haven't done this, you've got to do this. This is the core basics. They go through, teach you SwiftUI essentials, the drawing and animations, how to do layouts in your apps, and then how to work with frameworks. If you haven't done this, you got to do this. This is the core basics. This is free from Apple, developer.apple.com/tutorial/SwiftUI. You start there because Apple's going to teach you the core basics. When you're done with that web page right there, you should know the basics around building a SwiftUI app. Now, this assumes, once again, that you know some computer science concept. Swift Playgrounds is a great thing to also use to kind of learn SwiftUI. There's another website, Learning Online. Where is it? What is it? Right here, these guys. So if you're looking to build beautiful apps and you want to learn, these guys are pretty awesome. So this is Design and Code Swift Apps. It's called Design Code IO. They teach you in a way that is attractive. And so they have complete source. They have a bunch of SwiftUI fundamentals. They have 20 free tutorials, a bunch of videos and PDFs. You can go through and kind of watch through them. They have a SwiftUI handbook. They have advanced SwiftUI concepts to kind of get you in. And then they get you into designing of apps too. Figma handbook, and then if you're into React, right? So they also do React here and that kind of stuff. They give you some CSS and some designer stuff. These guys make the nice thing about these guys, I'd say, is that they're pretty top notch from the tutorials they have. They look gorgeous, and any app you build looks really, really nice because they're designers that are teaching you how to code. So what you learn is like a masterclass in making something that looks attractive in Swift. And so if you're want to learn SwiftUI, my first recommendation is you go look at the Apple tutorials. They're free. And then you take a look at somebody like Design Code IO, and then just watch a bunch of stuff and just try to build, right? I mean, every time I learn something, it's from I'm trying to build something and I'm trying to do it. Not sure how to do it, and I'll just figure it out. I've been in this a long time. I learn every day, honestly. And that's the secret, man, is if you want to learn how to build apps, just build one. And I promise you, you'll learn a lot. In fact, we're going to learn how to fix this here. So the issue I have is where to calculate. So the biggest problem here is we want to change how this displays, but that means we have to think about where do we calculate that at. If we go back to the app to think about this for a second, this counter is in the results view, but the owner of the data actually is this tab, the query tab. And so I don't want the UI to be super smart. The UI should be dumb. All it should do is draw stuff. There should be a boss of it that tells it what to draw and then it will calculate that. But anytime, I actually have a form in this code right now. Actually, I can show you that real quick here. When we go back, let me go back out of here. When you go to create an app, that's a form. And so in modern day Swift and Swift UI, these are something you use something called a sheet. And usually you bring a form into the sheet and then you can basically fill it out. So I've got several different forms in the app. I've got one for when you make an app. I also have one when you do a subscription. So if you do a subscription here, this brings up a form also. And you can basically put a bunch of controls on it, and then you have some actions that either can save or cancel, right? And you can't save until you fill out the fields that are required. So I have a little thing that makes the button not usable until you give me at least a name and a query. So I can say select, and you can see now that I put words in that box, and then also I gave it a name, now I could save it. It doesn't do any good because that's actually a bad query, but by theory, that's how we do it. And if we were to take a look at that, then let's go ahead and close here and take a look at that code and Xcode. That's actually in the if I were to look here, that is in the app editor view. So if you take a look here, this is kind of like what my form code looks like. Let's make this minimize so we can see it a little bit. So we can see here that it's a navigation stack. This is a sheet. And we bring in a view model. Or we make a view model. This has its own view model. So its view model should be inside the class that's here. These are all the fields that are on the form that you could save. We init those to be either blank, or if you're editing one, you could pass one in and we'll allow you to edit it, right? And then we have a function that runs, a save function, that when you want to save it. And there should be one more function or actually I think cancel just dismisses it. there's not, you don't need a function for that. Yeah, cancel here just says is present to false, and that closes the sheet automatically. But you can see here the save button will then run the code that says go through and save based on what's in state. And then if you take a look here, really, I don't have to keep track of anything in state of minus the view model. The view model will do it for me. The binding that is present is because the main code needs to know whether or not to open or shut the form, so the sheet. And so this is present is basically binding to the code that calls this to know whether or not this form should still be open or not on the screen. And if we were to take a look at it, really all the state, I'm using the macro of observable, and inside my extension here, I make a view model. And I'm a fan of doing all your state management in a view model. Well, you can, because it just makes it clean code separation. It makes it easy to test your view model versus your UI code. You can write unit tests for it. It's a very clear separation. And I don't like, unless I have to, I don't like necessarily having state management and calculation of state done in a view. A view can render many times. And so if you put all that logic in your view, the problem is you may be rendering that view 2 or 3 times because something changed and you don't even realize it. And when you're doing that, you may have functions run more than once, and you may not want that to happen. And so that's these are when people bed in like their all the stuff and like the view without making a view model and separate all this code and stuff. It just seems to me like chaos happens usually. And I know that in the old days of UI kit and stuff, people were like, hey, we should never re-render unless we have to. In the world of SwiftUI, you should just embrace it, but make sure that you have your state saved in a way that if it does, you have your saved things that you don't want to have change. Basically, I don't know how a better way to say that, but your state basically keeps it in memory so that when the component re-renders or recreates a new one, it'll remember that, oh, okay, I have that thing already in memory. Don't make a new one of those. That's probably the better way to describe it. State basically says, don't make a new one of those. I already have it. Just use the existing one I have versus anything else that is free game to remake. So separation of code. And so there's a website out there. One more learning thing. If you're very sorry for me getting winded on this learning stuff, but since you asked, I'm more than happy to hacking with Swift. So this guy right here is an awesome website. So this is a guy, the guy's name is Paul. And if you want to learn Swift UI and stuff, he also has a lot here. And he's got 4 years of tutorials and stuff. A lot of them are free, but if you search for view models, I know that he has a bunch of stuff about navigation and view models and stuff like that. I think I might have to do, I know he has right here, bringing view models into our Swift project. So he has a whole tutorial about view models and that kind of stuff. And this thing is, his website's pretty great. So I can't recommend hacking with Swift enough. It's another great learning resource. And he has he's a very opinionated views on how some things happen. I use his opinionated view on view models. I really do like the way that he came up with it. I used to make separate classes for view models, but having it just as an extension actually logically makes sense to me, rather than being a separate file. All the code's in one spot that has to do with something. I do like the way that he does that. So check out his stuff too. So let's see here. Back to my issue at hand here. So I have a result count. So then we need to calculate that. But we only need to calculate it when a query runs. We run the code here to run a query, right? So we can see here that we do that. So the good news is that we see here, we set this. So we can see here, if is empty, else right here. So we're going to say results count equals 0. And then there's another here because this is a different if case. This is the if your initial run. So there's a couple different places we have to set it. I probably should refactor that to fix that. But for right now, that's probably fine. And I can probably handle that later. So now I have a counter. Okay. Now, if it's not 0, the problem is we need to set it. So here, where if it's not 0, let's see here. So here we would have to say results count equals the string, the amount of strings we have. And that should fix it there. And then we'd also have it here. Count equals JSON results count. Right. Yep. Okay. So that should work. So now that we have a counter in our view model, and we are updating that counter, we can get rid of the manual calculation that we're doing for it. And so how we do that is we have to pass it in. So, we have this hot potato passing thing that's going on. So the query tab passes stuff to the query results. The query results passes it to the JSON results. So we have to kind of pass the buck the entire way. So the first thing we need to do is find the query results view here. So we're passing the full view model. That's not the way we should probably do this. But for right now, I guess that's okay. Let's take a look and see what we have going on over here in query results. So in query results, do we pass in? So in query results, we pass in just the binding that we need. So at least we're right there. I need to fix the binding on the other place. But let's just see if we can get the counter fixed first. So let's see here. We have a picker. We have the squares. Right here is where we're passing it in. The JSON results sphere. Okay. So this is where we need to change this to say that we want to bring in more than the results text. We also want to bring in the count. Binding var results counter count. And we'll say that that's an int. And we'll bring that in. And we have to make it a capital I because this is Swift, not Kotlin. Have a good one. Everything goes great. Follow you on Instagram. Have a nice day, man. It is 9:29 p.m. here. I am in Central Time Zone. I'm in Alabama. So in the US. So I'm 1 hour behind you. Let's see here. So I'm going to fix this code here by saying we have now the results count. And we're going to send the count to $view model to count. That should fix it there. Let's prettify this out a little bit so that these are in a separate line so that this is easier to read. Oop, don't want to do that. And so let's see here, value, what's going on here? What was it called? Results count. Why is it saying that? It should not be async. Okay, perfect. So we passed in the count. So we're halfway there. So we've got the count. We're going to pass it in. We're passing the buck, basically, right? We have this boss that tells us the count, and then we want to pass it over to the main thing that's managing these. And then, think of this like I have a very high up executive that says, I know the count. And then he passes it over to the management team and says, management team, tell your people that the count has changed. And then it goes to all the workers and says, hey, worker, oh, you're doing that particular job? Okay, you update it to this thing now. That's what's really going on here. And a lot of times in programming, we do that. We pass the buck and have somebody else do the work because that way we spread out the work. It makes it easier. No one person should do everything. That's not a good idea. So if we take a look here, we have a couple different components. The header is what resolves that. And we'll see here. So that's where we want to change this. Instead of saying that, we want to say results count. And then we need to do a toString on that. Actually, will it automatically do a string on that? Let's take it does take an indent. Okay. So it will automatically handle this for us. So let's see what's going on here. We should be able to debug this by just checking to see whether or not this works. Ooh, what are we getting here? Missing. Oh, yeah, we'd have to tell it first result constant 2. And let's see here. Correct call. Ooh, type that in wrong. And then it's telling me the order is wrong. I'm a bad person. Let's fix the order. And that should fix it. Now let's run it and see what happens. That's the thing that AI ain't going to help you with when you do those kind of things. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and click on this and take a look what's going on here. All right, let's go to query. And we can see here we've got 0 items. We're doing well. Let's go to where year is 2500. There should be no movies in the year 2500. No results. And the counter is 0. Let's go to 2121. And we should have 1 movie there, hopefully. We have 1 movie. And so the counter is updating. So look at that. Obviously, this is trivial, right? But that's important to know that, hey, look, we've got that. That means now we could control the state of the button properly for enabling and disabling the ability to export. And that's really what I wanted to do here. Let's see here. So I think we can close this out and go back and take a look at that now. So let's go here and say, hey, let's take a look at the, so where is the button at though? The button must be in the results view, right? Let's see what we have here. Yeah. And so where's the button though to export? Let's take a look at the info square button. So this is the download button. We're gonna say disabled if view model dot JSON count. Which one of these is count? The results count? Gotta. I'll deal with that later. Sorry about that. Having some monitor issues here. Fix that. Right. Let's see here. So we're going to disable the button only if the result count is equal to 0. Otherwise, we want to go through and make this happen. Captain. So that means the view model would have to have some kind of method that goes through and takes the results and then writes them to disk. And you should probably be able to like select the place to save it and stuff. That seems like it'd be important. Also, this should only be iPad or macOS, because if there is no if you're on iPad, I guess I could save it to disk, couldn't I? They have disk support now in the API. Now I think about it. Would a person with an iPad want to export the data to an iPad and then airdrop it to their Mac? Maybe. Hell with it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. We're not gonna. I was gonna sandbox that feature to only be a macOS only, but I'll figure it out. We can do it. So let's do a task here that says we need then in the view model for right now. We'll need to refactor this eventually, but let's just put it in here. All the junk seems to be here in the trunk anyways. So let's see here. What do we got going on? We have a view model. In the view model, we have it execute and add query to this and a close selected app. What we should probably be doing here is adding a method here. So let's just call function. I actually don't know how to bring up the UI to save the disk. So we would need a location of where to save to before you even write the function. So when they click on it, probably what needs to happen is we need to get the location of how to save the disk. And since I don't know how to do that, we probably need to look at some docs to do that, or we need to ask AI overlords, one of the two, right? Let's start with AI overlords, since that seems to be the popular thing these days. Happen to have that open, so let's bring our Xcode, the GitHub Copilot. I'm running Claude as the model here. Let's get the current view is results view. Yep. So let's say here, when the button, so let's ask it a question. Let's see if we can do that. When the button in my query results view is clicked, I need to have it open up a window to select where to export the data to. What I want to happen is when the user clicks on this button, they select the location, and then it saves out the results to a file and yeah. Can you recommend an API to do this with? This is asking, see if it can recommend what is the API to do this with. There must be an API that Apple has. What is it saying here? So that's the results can be kind of tricky to read. And a lot of times what I don't like about the AI tools is they don't tell me like what API to use. So there's a file exporter API. The document picker function via file exporter. Okay, this API is perfect. Okay, shit, that's awesome. Let's not take its word for it. I don't know if that's me distrusting the AI overloads, but let's go to developer.apple.com. And from here, let's find the Swift documentation. And let's see here. Search. What we're looking for is SwiftUI File Explorer. Boy, okay. File for exporter. Let's see here. What the hell's going on here? That's camera view. I don't want camera view. I want file explorer. Let's do just file explorer. Let's see if we can find out what's going on here. Let's look at the code example that gave us to see if it can give us any more information about that. Maybe we need a little bit more detail because this looks like there's a lot of stuff, but I want some context. What are we doing here? Where's our task at? So there's just something called file exporter. Huh. That is really interesting. So they're saying that it's just, you can attach it to any view? Because this is attaches to a view. So it's attaching to the button and it's saying, so it added some new state. It's exporting. Okay. I mean, do you need to track that in a view model? Probably not, but okay. So it's saying here, we're going to track the state of whether or not we have the window open, basically. That's what this exporting is doing. We're going to say if it's presented, if it's true, then let's bring this window up and then document a query results document. Oh, you have to make a new struct for it. Snap. Readable content types, JSON, string. So you pass in the string of data. Okay. Yeah. The weird thing though is I really want this to be I really want to read this documentation from Apple. And I just don't see. Oh, that's UI kit. We don't care about UI kit. That's all UI kit. We're SwiftUI, not that. This is camera, artwork, scene view. Here we go. I had to use Google. Apple's search was not good enough. What a bunch of turds. All right, let's see here. This is exactly what we're looking at. So in a view, yeah, it looks like any view has a file exporter built into it. Holy crap on a cracker. This is awesome. iOS 14 and higher, that looks good. So it does have this document type. Interesting. Okay, well, this is good enough for me. Honestly, if it's here, and there's a file document, so I can click on this, and this is the file document. So so Unicode type, It's the U for Unicode because we have encoding we probably have to worry about. That's what I'm guessing. Okay. Well, if the AI overlord gave us the wrong answer, the good news is that we have Apple's docs, so we can go take a look at it. That's the most important part. Let's go back to Xcode here. I think we'll try to code this up, and then if that's cool, then we'll probably call it a night. We've been streaming for I don't know how long, but let's see here. Is there a counter on this? Yeah, hour and 40 minutes. So good stream. All right, let's see here. Let's make a new file then. Is it a model though? Yeah, we'll put it in models. Let's make a new file from template. It's a Swift file. And what we want to call this is a query results document. Okay, we've got a hard cold killer here. Imports SwiftUI. Okay. That Cocoa error is getting me a little bummed out though. Ooh. Is that in just okay, so it's not in AppKit. It's not in Foundation. Where the hell is that? Let's go look here. Back at the Apple documentation. Oh, it was a file document right here. Let's open up in a new tab. Where is this coming from? So it's available on all the platforms. Yeah, right here. Uniform identifier types. Okay. That's great. What library are you in? U types. Uniform type identifiers. Okay, yeah, I get it, but I mean, to define your own types. No, I don't need to find a type because JSON should be a standard type, right? I shouldn't need to do that. Hey, Zach, what's going on, man? Over on YouTube. I hope you're doing well. Huh. Where the hell do I import this from? Uniform types identifiers. So it's this is Xcode. So it's called uniform type identifiers. That's the library. Well, crap on a cracker. Okay. That looks like it's right. Let's make the assumption it is right now. Okay. So we have a new results document here. So let's go back and take a look at some code here of what it was recommending. So what it's recommending is that we have to do is exporting as true. So we're keeping track of state. So let's take a look and see if, and tear this apart what we're doing here. Here's my theory. There's nothing wrong with using AI to write code, right? However, you better damn well know what it does, because if you don't know what it does, you can't fix it, right? So I mean, if you're gonna code with AI, no problem with that whatsoever. I do it. I think it's cool, but you should probably know what the hell's going on. Otherwise, debugging is going to be a nightmare. So let's see here. So we're gonna use this exporting the true, and that's what the button's gonna do when it gets clicked. So that's the action that's gonna happen on the button, right? So we don't even need a task for here. We're just gonna say is exporting as true. That is a state variable. So that's going to keep track of it regardless of we recycle the view or not, right? And then what's going to happen is that on this button, we got to find where the, so that's not the button. This is the button, right? We got to find where the button closes. So that's the label. This is the button. So it would be this right next to this padding. So let's do this. Padding off there like that is bad. I know sometimes this is hard to see. Let's make that so we can do that. Let's move this code window over here so we can see more of this one. Now we can absolutely see what the hell's going on here. All right, let's see here. So what we're gonna want to do is here, not on the padding. Let's do it. Should we do above padding? File. And this is what's called exporter. Actually, we should be able to just take all this code for file exporter through. That's the case. Actually, disable should be over here like this. And then file exporter is here. And then results comes here. So I'm guessing this is all the file exporter code, right? Because let's take a look at this for a second. This is a method call. We're passing in this. This would be the close of the scope of that. So yeah, this is the code we want. So we need to take a look at our document, because right now it's array. We want to flat map that out, right? What's it needed? What's the format that the document is requiring here? Let's take a look at that. The JSON doc, query results document. It is taking a JSON data as a string. And query results is currently what? Query results, I think, an array of JSON objects, right? Where is the query tab? Query results is an array, I'm pretty sure, of JSON documents. Let's take a look here. JSON results, that's what we want. JSON results is what we should be sending it. View model JSON results, but we need it flattened to a single string. Flatten's probably not a function, is it? Flat map. Oh, let's see here. So also, why are we having this? That's better. But so let's see here. That recommendation for calling file exporter doesn't work because view model dot JSON results is an array of strings. How can I flatten that to be a single string. Ask our AR overlord how to do that. So it just says make a private function that does it. But why won't we just call that from the view model? Why would we put it here where we can have it there instead? Let's do that instead. Let's go here and say view model can do that for us. Well, I was just talking about the view model shouldn't be doing all this work for the results view. Let's do it here. Let's see here. Body closes where right here. Okay. I think we're missing a, this is missing some kind of, we somehow added, we're missing, how many? There's missing a squiggly closer here. That's what's causing that problem. So then what we need to do is JSON data would be view model dot, what was that method? No, we didn't do view model. We did it in here. It'd be self, be flattened JSON result. That's a function, so we need to add some parentheses. There it is. Huh. This seems way easier than I thought it was going to be. Is that going to work? I don't know. Let's find out. I mean, if Apple makes it that easy, I'm going to be freaking ridiculously impressed. Let's go over to query. Let's grab some movies. Limit order by year descending, limit to 5. We got 5 items. Our button's now available. We click on it. Uh-oh. That's great. So this is assembly. Load. We're loading something into memory somewhere and it blew up. Unable to display save panel. Your app has the user selected file read entitlement, but it needs to be user selected file read write. My entitlement file screwed up. Whoa. Well, okay. I'm so sorry. Let's see if we can fix that. So we usually generate that, right? Let's go into here. Let's minimize this for right now. Bring Xcode back up to full so we can see it. Let's close this. To tell you the truth, let's get up to the point where we can see it for reals and see what's going on here. So, target, signing. Let's see here for macOS. Where are our features? So, app sandbox. We want in and outgoing. We want camera. We don't care about camera USB file. Where's file at? Right here. Read only. Read and write. That's what's going on. But the problem is going to be that's for there, but for iOS, save, file. I don't see it. All right, so that's going to fix me for macOS, but I have a feeling we're still going to run into the entitlement problem because this is app sandbox. This is only macOS. When we go to iOS, we're going to have a problem where we need to also set that. So I think this is going to blow up iPad. That's what I think. Let's go see what happens. Bring this back open. See if this works. Go to query. Go to our history. We had this in history. Another reason that that feature we wrote is cool. Let's see what's going on here. We got 5 items. Okay, that's this is impressive. This works. Let's just save it into the downloads folder. Let's bring the downloads folder open here on my Mac. Open with, let's do Visual Studio Code. See what's going on here. Holy crap on a cracker, folks. Look at that shit. Worked. Badass. Okay, SwiftUI. You're winning me over here, SwiftUI. That's pretty cool. The fact that we got a file exporter and it took like very little work to make work. Oh, we should have a, I wonder how we do hoverovers. Should figure that out. On a button, is there a hover over? Let's ask our AI overlords. We'll add some polish onto this real quick. There's our AI overlord back. Hey, how you doing? AI overlord. Let's not make it too angry. Okay, let's see here. On my button for exporting, can we have it show some text if someone hovers over it, so they know the button is for used to export. So what do we hear? Help. So there is on a button, there is a hot damn. Let's try that. And then I'm looking here. I've been running for almost 2 hours. So I think we'll probably shut the stream down here in a little bit. Once we know that we have that working. Let's see here. Let's go over to query. Take a look at this. Go to our history. Try it again. Let's do 10,000 items though. Let's make this hard. Okay, there we are. When I hover over, not getting the message. That's a bummer. Let's export it, replace it, go back to downloads, open that with VS Code again. And hell yeah, look at that. 10,000 JSON documents. Boy, that's a lot of data. But it worked. We just exported out. That is getting to the point where I'm getting very happy. Probably the only other feature I want to put in so we can export. I'm gonna probably take table out and say that table is going to be a V2 feature. We want to get this shipped out to users to play around with it. So I think history is working good enough. Favorites are working good enough. Collections, we need an import button to import data. Right. Well, wait, I think I do it over here. I do it over here. Should it be in the collection though? Or data store? Well, I think tomorrow what we're going to do on stream is we're going to clean up this UI. If we say that importing data is done, do you right click on a collection and say import? What if you want to import to a new collection that you don't have yet? That's not going to work because if you'd only be able to right click here, that's not a good idea. I think we need to have a separate button that says import. But do we do the button at the bottom? So this was discussed last night on the stream. And so what Apple does a lot of times is that their button for doing things is at the very freaking bottom. For some reason, like if I go to history I scroll all the way down. The clear button's way down here. And so Apple is really big on, and I'm trying to make this very Apple-like. So I'm trying to make sure that I understand that, um, and try to make this as close to a cool Apple app as possible. So you can see here our clear histories down here at the bottom. And if we were to have a bunch more history, I'd have to make a bunch more items. That button will always be there at the bottom. So I could make an import button here that just runs a sheet that does this. And I could have, if I wrote the view, I could have it in both spots, I guess. Maybe I make a view that does this, right? And we pass in the name of the collection. And if we don't pass in a collection name, then they have to provide it to us. Otherwise, we pre-fill out the form with the collection name in it. That could work because then we can make it so that you can import from multiple places. You could right click here and say import, or from data store, you could click an import button here and you can import that way too. I think if we make this multifaceted, where we can do it from multiple spots, that's going to be the best experience. If I were to right click and do it from here, or do the swipe and do it, I guess, we would just attach a sheet, but it would be the same view, right? So we'll have to separate that out to a view that is in a separate file, right? And our sheet would just call that view and render it. I think this is the way to do that. So I think we have our next feature we're going to work on tomorrow on the stream. I think we're going to go through and make a sheet for importing data. And also, I think we're going to spend a bunch of time cleaning up this UI because this, we can make subscriptions, we can make observers here, but this UI, it's just not great. Yeah. It's not great. We need to make it clean like this. I'd like this UI. This UI is pretty nice. I'm kind of sold that I like this. I got to figure out icons for this. So for subscription observers, so I might have to go, I'll probably have to do this off stream, but I know I own a license for Font Awesome. So I think I'm just going to have to go through the Font Awesome massive 6,000 icons and figure out what I want to make the icon for subscriptions and the servers be. I'm not going to make my own icons. I think I can find some icons of Font Awesome to do that with. And then what I'm probably going to do is something like this, where we have icons at the top, and it'll be like this, and then you'll be able to see your observers versus subscriptions. I think that's what we're going to do. And so then the UI will be the same between these two, and then the only other one I want to be here for data tools, which is our presence viewer and stuff. And this is working just fine. Good enough for right now. So, but I think we are almost ready to ship the query tool. I think the query tool, if I were to take table out, I think we can ship this. I think we can merge it. Let's update our pull request, and then we'll call this day. Git status. What's going on here, man? We got a lot of stuff we added. Git commit. Message. What did we do? Feature. We made a feature. We added history and favorites. We also went through and added new feature for data exporting. And then what else did we do? Cleaned up UI for the query tab. Okay, let's push that out. Make sure our code made it out to the GitHubs. Let's go to GitHub. Biazal, if I spell it right. Go look at our code here and see what's going on here. We have Ditto Edge Studio, and our PR should be updated with the latest code. Boy, that's a long open. What the hell's going on here, GitHub? Wow. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna have Copilot re-review it. Let's resolve these. and then have it do a new review. So yeah, Copilot now in GitHub, if you have a license for it, will do a review of your code. So you can just check your code in and tell it, hey, give me a review, and it'll go through and give you like a peer review of it, which is pretty badass cool. And so I asked it for a review. We'll see what happens. So I think we'll start tomorrow with that, the tomorrow stream. We'll go through the review and see what the hell's going on with this. Oh, hey, let's see here. It looks like chat is done. I'm looking to see if anybody has any other things. I don't see anything else out there in chat. So one, thanks for hanging out with me on the stream. If you're watching on YouTube on video on demand later, thanks for watching. I don't know why all you guys do that, but maybe so you can do it at 2x speed. I don't know, but whatever reason, keep doing it, I guess. If you have questions, ping me. I'm over in Discord. There's links in my Twitch and YouTubes of how to find me. Of course, Discord, Dev Club, great place to go hang out. Of course, you can ping me on LinkedIn and GitHub on the repo. And of course, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky. So the socials should be right there for Instagram and the rest of those. If you have questions or you want to message me, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you have a great night. I'll see you guys again tomorrow when we stream next. Take care. Have a good one.